knocking dead up in Steeny Creek. I'm just out Austin about San Antonio with the radio passing with my bird dog on. Gonna shut me down. Hey folks, how y'all doing this morning? Just thought I would pay y'all a little visit this morning, give y'all a little news, tell y'all what's up, what's happening, make me a little video, a whole lot going on in the news, way too much for one man to cover, and I know it, but, I try. I actually don't know much where to start. I'll start with local news though, I guess. Got a lot of it. Well, got about 4 stories, I guess. One's actually national news, but it came from the local WYMT.com website. An explosion at Murray State dorm felt on and off campus. It's for you TV viewers, I'll swing that camera around a little bit. Hold on.
We have what you're looking for.
That is an ad. Hold on, give us 1 second here and let that thing play out.
Murray State University. Officials are investigating after an explosion heavily damaged a dorm on campus and sent one person to the hospital. It happened at the New Richmond dorm just before 5 this afternoon local time. A university employee tells WPSD TV in Paducah that 2 people were injured, but one was treated and released at the scene. We're told the person who was taken to the hospital was 26-year-old Dakota Fields, an employee of the college. He was later flown to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. At last check, he was in stable condition. There are conflicting reports as to what caused the explosion. Police are still on scene and have blocked off several streets around the building. Meanwhile, hundreds of students were with the Governor's Scholars Program, including several from Eastern Kentucky, were on campus during the blast. We're told they were in a different building when it happened. One student in the program from Pike County says if the explosion had happened a few minutes earlier, more people could have been injured.
I guess when I really think about it, if class had let out 20 minutes later, but thankfully everybody was safe and everybody had gotten back to the dorms.
Yeah, thankfully, I don't know exactly what caused the explosion. Did she ever say? May have been caused by a gas leak, according to this article. I must have missed it. But yeah, I was doing a little bit of producing right there, But yeah, I was trying to put my link out there so to get more viewers going on this morning. Folks, I know you probably don't realize it, and I apologize for all the snoring this morning, as all my dogs are killed out. I gave them a good bath last night and give them some good flea medicine. And there ain't no bugs on me. There may be bugs on some of you mutts, but there ain't no bugs on me. That's how I know. Again, I apologize for that. Roscoe. See, he's out like a light. He ain't moving. I would show him to y'all, but I let him sleep. I let that laying dog rest, you know. But anyway, yeah, I'm in a battle here, folks. I'll just tell you, I take money out of my pocket and pay for this podcast. There's nothing here that I make that is profit. I do not get paid for YouTube views as of yet. And last time I checked, it owed me a grand total of 11 cents. So, yeah. So, in the description this morning, I added that people who visit my website, my official website at bigalmorgan.wixsite.com/AlexMorganShow. If you donate $40 to my show, I will send you a free t-shirt of your whatever size you want. You need to go over there to the site and donate. And I don't think you can leave a description like in the donation where you click on the link. So if you can't do that, just send me an email alexmorganshow@gmail.com or bigalmorgan@live.com. You can also send it to alexmorgan9183@gmail.com. But yeah, if you donate $40, I'll send you a free t-shirt. These t-shirts are costly. I'm not gonna lie. I've got about $35 a piece in them. They haven't arrived yet, but the graphics is what made them cost so much. I really need to find me a good t-shirt company, which I can get a pretty decent deal, you know, pretty consecutive, but I haven't found it yet, and I'm having to rely on sites like Custom Ink and, you know, etc. to fulfill my t-shirt needs. I'm just trying to raise a little money for the show, trying to keep a few bills paid, trying to survive. I'm unemployed right now, and I've put applications everywhere. I'm really been trying to get a job. It just isn't working as of yet, but I'm sure things will soon change. Just, if you can't donate, that's fine. I totally understand. You know, you're still free to view the show anytime. Just please, at the very least, spread the articles, spread the links. Well, I'm not writing my own articles as of yet, but like the articles that I share them, and share my links, please. If y'all don't follow me on Twitter, you can. Twitter.com/BigAlMorgan. No, my bad. That's Facebook.com/Big Al Morgan. Twitter is Twitter.com/Real Big Al Morgan, or Twitter.com/Alex Morgan Show. You can follow me on any of those platforms. Instagram.com/Big Al Morgan. But yeah, I need your support, guys. And as I've said many times, doing a lame ass podcast is about the last thing that I want to do. But everything I do, I'm gonna put all the effort I got into it. I'm gonna do the best I can do with it, and yeah, used to I would just get on social media and post a big rant about some political BS that was going on. I don't know, it's just like I wasn't reaching enough people, and I was more or less attracting so-called liberal friends of mine, and they were criticizing my views and blah blah blah, attacking me verbally and all this. But one thing about it, I pretty much got them SOBs weeded out, so that's one good thing about that. But another good thing, I guess, it led to the podcast. So yeah, but I digress badly. I'm sorry about that. Let's move on. Got a lot to cover this morning. See if I wanted to show. I'll show you here in a minute after I get through this damn local news. This poll right here was put out on WYMT.com. Poll results. Do you believe Eric C. Khan has left the United States? There have been 557 responses. 69.84% said yes. 25.31% said no. 4.85% are undecided. So yeah, if you want to go over to WYMT and check out that poll, you can. I love the polls they got over here. Here's one that says, do you approve of President Trump's job so far? Let's see here. I'm going to select yes, which, I can't not agree with it. So, okay. There have been 1,363 responses. 70.14% said yes, they do approve of President Trump's job so far. 26.85% said no, they don't approve. And 3.01% are undecided. But again, yeah, if y'all want to go over to WYMT.com and check out those polls, I stay pretty interested in the polls. I mean, they're pretty interesting. I like to know kind of what people around me are thinking and this and that. It kind of gives you, a little feel of, just what everybody's thinking. It's a good thing to have. I'd like to have more polls on my site, but I've not gotten around to it yet, folks. Here's this article. Members of Pike County churches give back to the community. going to go ahead and mute that for a moment because I'm sure there will be an ad, as there always is on the videos on WYMT.com. I'll just sit here and talk to you for a minute while it loads. Another way you could support me, if you can't donate, I'll tell you a really good way you can support me. You can go to your mobile app store and download this app called Fairy Dice. It's one word, Fairy Dice. And after you download the app and it installs, use your Facebook account to sign up and sign in, and then use my promo code, which is 182090. This is an app which I've been using for a couple months now. Anything basically that which is for sale on Amazon, you can earn through this Fairy Dice app for free. You just you watch videos, you complete surveys and like bonus offers, and you refer your friends and family to get rolls. You use your rolls to roll your dice, and whichever number comes up on your dice is how many tickets you get for each roll that you roll. And on average, I'd say the price of the products on Amazon is about 1,000 tickets per $1, something like that. So yeah, it's just a good way to earn free stuff. It's shipped free to your home. Another way you could support me, which I've not fully mastered yet, you can go over to my Facebook page and add me as a friend or follow me one, and just scroll down through my timeline and look for a big bunch of products, which is been added from tripleclicks.com. They've got pretty good products. From what I can tell, they're pretty cheap. But again, if you make a purchase, I will get a percentage of that, and it'll really help me pay some of these bills that are plaguing me badly right now. I'm just looking for any way to get some speed up, maybe keep moving and get out of this rut that I'm in. For you YouTube viewers, whatever, right here's the site on the TV. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff. There's even auctions. Let me see if I can find out how you can contact me on here. I don't know how you could follow. The best way I know to do it is just go to my Facebook page and look on my timeline. It's just like a big bunch of products that have been added. But yeah, moving on. Let's get on with this news. Phone call. That's not my show phone, or we would have a caller. I haven't given the number out. The phone lines are open. That number, if you want to call and give your thoughts or opinions on anything this morning, that number is 276-524-0047. Again, anyone's welcome to call and talk about anything that y'all want to talk about. I'd be thrilled to hear from you. I really would. I want to see this show succeed. I put my heart and soul into it, and yeah, I just want to see it succeed. Let's get into this article now. Members of Pike County churches give back to the community.
Projects and even landscaping. More than 100 volunteers from Pike County churches are hard at work to make a difference in their community. Love Loud is a yearly week-long event for students and adults. Organizers say it is all to show community that they care.
And so this is an opportunity right here where we live to impact our neighbors, our community, and just to do some good work, to let people know that Jesus loves them and that our churches care about the community.
Volunteers will continue to wash cars for free through Friday at the First Baptist Church of Pikeville. We have more on WYMT.com.
There you go, folks. Car wash at some of the Pike County churches. That is not in my area, but it may be in yours, and you may want to go. It's for a good cause. So this article is also from WYMT. It was the article I was talking about earlier when I first started this broadcast. I was telling you that I had an article that was considered national news, but it was on the local website. So yeah, give us a few minutes here to play out, and we will get right to that video. Something that could be fun. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, but there's live chat on Spreaker. Anyone who's friends with me, I can send them an invite, and you can live chat while you listen to the show. If anyone ever wants to do that, just add me on Facebook and send me a message and tell me you want added to the live chat, and I will be more than happy to do that for you. I think this video's about ready to play here. At least I thought so.
Leaders continue to respond to California's state-funded travel ban. California's Attorney General issued the ban because of laws here in Kentucky that he says could discriminate against the LGBT community. Now Kentucky's governor and Attorney General are getting involved, and the ongoing feud between the two continues. Tonight, Tanner Hesterberg talked to both public officials about the travel ban.
Where's our Attorney General in calling out his fellow Attorney General on the absurdity of that ban?
I mean, government's not supposed to include the name calling, the crazy allegations.
Tension between Governor Matt Bevin and Attorney General Andy Beshear appears to be growing after California banned state-sponsored travel to Kentucky. They may not want people to travel on business to Kentucky. I'm going to be traveling on business to California and sucking companies out of there to Kentucky. You can bet on that. California's Attorney General added Kentucky to a list of states subject to travel restrictions because of laws that could discriminate against members of the LGBTQ community. This after Kentucky lawmakers passed Senate Bill 17 aimed at securing religious freedom in public schools.
Anytime we pass legislation, we have to look at the intended and the unintended consequences. And if we don't foresee that, and it causes a major economic impact, then shame on us.
Beshear did not explicitly say whether he agreed or disagreed with California's travel ban. However, he did say we'll know if that Senate bill discriminates against any kids when school starts back this fall.
We're going to learn a lot about the impact of the bill.
Beshear wants California's AG to reconsider his decision, while Bevin predicts the ban won't last long. They're going to walk that thing back. It's a silly idea. It was meant to make headlines. As another issue highlights the rift between these two state leaders. In Frankfort, Tanner Hesterberg, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, California bans state travel to 7 other states, including Tennessee.
I don't see how they can do that, folks.
Hey, get to BruceWaltersKia.com and check out the
Hang on just
Summers
a
on
moment.
Us sales event.
This is the United States, and we're free to travel from state to state without any type of identification, without any visas, without any passports, anything like that. I don't see how they can do that, and for them to even talk about something so outlandish is far beyond me, because this is a free country and I'll go where I want to go. And I'm sure Californians will go where they want to go too. You tell somebody that they can't do something, and I'd say about 70 to 80% of them are going to do it or die. You know, that's just the way people's minds work. If they think they can't do something, then they just want to do it that much more. I don't see how, like, somebody's sexuality or their sexual orientation would prevent them from coming to the state of Kentucky. I'll tell you what, it's a dominant Christian state. We got a lot of Christians in our community. They're folks that, you know, live their lives the way they believe that they should live them, and they don't discriminate, though. They don't bother anybody that they don't, you know, see eye to eye with, or have any prejudice or anything like that. That is highly, highly outrageous right there. I want to see if I can find anything else on this. Sit right there, folks. I'll let you know what I come up with. Here's about 3 articles. This is from WBIR TV. I don't know where that station is exactly. There's a video loading up. California has added 4 states alongside Tennessee to its travel ban list for violating terms listed in a resolution lawmakers drafted in 2016. California's AB 1887 imposes state-funded and state-sponsored travel bans to any states that pass legislation it deems discriminatory to groups of people, particularly against LGBT people. The ban was passed initially in response to North Carolina's, quote, bathroom bill, unquote, that required transgender people to use the bathroom corresponding to their gender on their birth certificate. California imposed a travel ban against Tennessee that took effect on January 1st in response to a statute signed by Governor Bill Haslam in 2016 that allows mental health counselors to reject patients on religious beliefs. The American Counseling Association claimed the bill was discriminatory to the LGBT community. Governor Haslam said the statute continued provisions that required those counselors to refer their client to another counselor who would
Vimeo changed my life.
serve them.
I had this constant need to film, make these creations, and share them with everyone. I've been making videos.
Well, California added 4 new states to its travel ban list for violating terms listed of a resolution from 2016. You can see those on your screen there. The resolution bans state-funded travel to any state that passes legislation that California deems discriminatory. Tennessee is one of several states originally on the list, and the ban against Tennessee took effect on January 1st. This was a response to a statute signed by Governor Haslam last year that allows mental health counselors to reject patients on religious beliefs.
I was trying to see where I left off because he quit about where I did. I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry. Must have read it all. See what we got up next. This article's on realclearpolitics.com. I'm not sure what the article is yet. I'm waiting on it to load. CNN anchor, Trump putting journalists in danger. quote, declaration of war on media, unquote, has, quote, emboldened, end quote, war zones. We'll just watch this video. Give it just a second here to load, folks. Just a moment.
The fact of the matter is, we're not fake media. We're here to do a job. Respect the job, we respect yours. And if you're not going to respect us, we need to speak up.
Chris, I mean, at what point does this become dangerous? And I'm not just talking about dangerous in terms of tearing at the social fabric. I'm talking about dangerous as in a journalist gets hurt. Because I can tell you, working overseas...
Folks, if you haven't been over to CNNleaks.com and listened to any of these tapes, you don't know how outrageous that this sounds if you haven't listened to these tapes. In fact, I have a video I'm fixing to play for y'all just right here very shortly.
War zones. You know, people are emboldened by the actions of this administration, emboldened by the all-out sort of declaration of war on the media. If I'm getting it in the neck, Chris, I can only imagine what someone like you is dealing with. At what point does this become reckless or irresponsible, Chris?
I mean, I don't want to say we're past that point. I will say this, Chris. I think it is. I think it is already dangerous what the Trump administration is doing, which is, to Brian's point, they are trying to take an honest mistake, or not even a mistake, and turn it into the norm as opposed to the rule as opposed to the exception, which is a very dangerous thing because that's willfully misleading, frankly. The idea that Dave Barenthal, who was my colleague for a very long time and doesn't toot his own horn enough, the idea that he was attacked for doing what he did had nothing to do with the quality of the journalism he was doing. It was 100% about that it was a bad story for Donald Trump. In Donald Trump's world, the media is judged by you are good if you write things that are good for Donald Trump. You are objectively bad if you criticize Donald Trump. It is not our job to be liked by Donald Trump. It is not our job to report the news. Sean Spicer said this, Sarah said it yesterday. Well, you guys ignore the news that's important. Well, you know, I mean, I do think the Russian hacking of an election, is important news. Right. It's not a... We can debate collusion. They're right. There's no evidence of that. But this is about the broader hacking of election. In Dave's case, it was about a charitable organization that didn't give to charity. For the man who was running to be the president of the United States. It doesn't have to do with the fact that Donald Trump is a Republican nominee. I guarantee you 1,000,000 times over, because I know Dave personally, if it was a Hillary Clinton Foundation doing the same thing, he would have done the same reporting. Right. That's exactly what's maddening when you're watching this.
Right. So, Brian, go ahead.
To your point earlier that you were asking about safety, think about that. How many reporters have died for the cause? I've been jailed. There are 12 of us who have gone to jail to protect the First Amendment. There are people who have been beaten. There have been people who have been threatened. Our newspapers, after Donald Trump's election, we've gotten threats from both the far left and the far right. They are emboldened. It is dangerous. And the fact of the matter is, it is insulting to the memory of the people who have given their lives for the cause, for providing information to the public, to then be told that you are fake media, you do not matter, and what you're doing is false. And quite frankly, every one of us should stand up against that, because it is undermining the First Amendment. It is dangerous, making it dangerous for reporters. You are absolutely right. There's going to become a time, and it won't be, it's not going to be too far off,
I surmise, when we're going to see that a reporter is going to face physical harm because of this.
Well, God forbid. Nobody wants to see that. It certainly wouldn't make the situation any better. And I'll tell you what, I'm in no rush to change positions with Clarissa Ward, because I'll take on a war of words, even with the President of the United States, any day.
They're so funny. Oh my God. Watch this, folks. What you're about to see is someone undercover talking to a CNN employee, asking them about Russia and Trump. Listen to this.
Then why is CNN constantly like Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
Because ratings?
Our ratings are incredible right now.
But honestly, you think the whole Russia shit is just like bullshit.
Give people the freedom to choose whether or not they want to buy this grossly expensive Obamacare now. They choose not to do so. The next year, it's 10% above baseline, which means the second year already premiums are coming down by the third year.
They want to keep digging.
Honestly,
you think the whole Russia shit is just like bullshit.
Could be bullshit. I mean, it's mostly bullshit right now. Like, we don't have any big giant proof.
I just feel like they don't really have it, but they want to keep digging.
And so I think the president is probably right to say, like, look, you are witch hunting me. Like, you have no smoking gun. You have no real proof.
And the CEO of CNN said in our internal meeting, he said, "Good job, everybody, covering the climate accords. But we're done with it. Let's get back to Russia."
Then why is CNN constantly like Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
But honestly, you think the whole Russia shit is just like bullshit.
It's mostly bullshit right now. Like, we don't have any big giant proof.
I'm not going to give you a question. Can you stay You are fake news. Because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you...
Even if Russia was trying to swing an election, we try to swing their elections. We heard about our CIA and doing shit all the time.
Fake news. We start our American Pravda investigations inside America's media with Part 1, CNN. Our goal is to expose the real motivations behind the decision-making process at our dominant media corporations. Fake news. One story has monopolized President Trump's time in office like no other, especially on CNN. Russia. In fact, since the inauguration, CNN has mentioned Russia on their air nearly 16,000 times. So we sent our undercover reporters inside CNN to understand why, and to determine if CNN even believes that the story is even real. You're not going to believe what you're about to hear, or maybe you will. I'd like to introduce you to CNN supervising producer John Bonifield in Atlanta.
So you believe like the Russia thing's a little crazy, right?
Even if Russia was trying to swing an election, we try to swing their elections. We heard about our CIA and doing shit all the time. Like, we're out there trying to manipulate governments. Like, you win because you know the game and you play it right. She didn't play it right.
Then why is CNN constantly like Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
Because it's ratings?
Our ratings are incredible right now.
In the month of May, CNN's ratings were significantly higher than they were the year before. The Russia story and Trump have made CNN millions.
Because of,
So, my boss, I shouldn't say this, my boss a couple days yesterday, we were having a discussion about this dental shoot. He's like, I just want you to know what we're up against here. And he goes, just to give you some context, President Trump pulled out of the climate accords, and for a day and a half we covered the climate accords, and the CEO of CNN said in our internal meeting, he said, "Good job, everybody, covering the climate accords, but we're done with it. Let's get back to Russia."
The CEO?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, So even the climate accords, he was like, okay, a day or so, but we're moving back to Russia.
Bonifield says CNN's CEO Jeff Zucker demanded that his news channel get back to the ratings winner that Russia is for CNN. Was that an editorial call or a business call?
That's what's, I mean, I understand it's all ratings, right?
It's a business. It's a business. People are like, the media has like an ethical... But all the nice cutesy little ethics that used to get talked about in journalism school, you're just like, that's adorable. That's adorable. Especially cable news, you know. Cable news isn't the New York Times, and it's not even like NBC News. I mean, NBC News still gets 20 million viewers a night. Cable news is getting 1 million. So, like they gotta do what they gotta do to make their money, I think. And so I love the news business, but I find it so fascinating. I'm very cynical about it. At the same time, so are most of my colleagues. Yeah, it's like I'm not alone.
Bonifield has worked for CNN as a journalist and producer for nearly 15 years. He not only gave us a tour of CNN's main newsroom, he gave us a window into the editorial bias and anti-Trump agenda of the organization.
I think that there are a lot of liberal CNN viewers who want to see Trump really get scrutinized, and I think if we would have behaved that way with President Obama and scrutinized everything that he was doing with as much scrutiny as we applied to Donald Trump, I think our viewers would have been turned off. I think they would have thought like we were attacking him. But I think our viewers right now, and I'm not saying all of our viewers are super liberals, I think there's just a lot of them. And
So Trump's good for business, you're saying?
Trump is good for business right now.
But honestly, you'd think the whole Russia shit is just like bullshit.
Could be bullshit. I mean, it's mostly bullshit right now. Like, we don't have any big giant proof. But then they say, well, there's still an investigation going on. And you're like, yeah. I don't know. If you were finding something, who would we know about it? The way these leaks happen, they'd leak it. It'd leak. If there was something really good, it would leak.
It would have leaked before voting, I would say. If anything was good out there, it would have came out already.
Yeah, the leaks keep leaking, and there's so many great leaks, and it's amazing, and I just refuse to believe that if they had something really good, that would leak, because we've been getting all these other leaks, so I just feel like they don't really have it, but they want to keep digging. Mm-hmm. And so I think the president is probably right to say, like, look, you are witch hunting me. Like, you have no smoking gun. You have no real proof.
No real proof, he says, and that speaks volumes about today's mainstream media. Bonifield says CNN loves the Russia story not because it's true, but because people want it to be true. They're feeding their audience a false narrative in order to get ratings. Their enthusiasm to report false news is getting the better of them. On Saturday, CNN imposed strict internal restrictions on all future Russia stories after they had to delete and retract a story that was poorly sourced. And yesterday, 3 CNN staffers resigned, victims of fake news. So where does that leave us? The American people are fed up with fake news, and a mainstream media they cannot trust. It's corporate greed, market pressures, managers without integrity, newsroom bosses without courage, journalists who don't even leave their desks. The very purpose of journalism is to expose the world for what it is, not to create false political narratives in order to make money. The American people are frustrated because they have nowhere left to go to get actual information. This is just part 1 of the CNN series. We have so much more that we will bring you on video as our American Provident investigations continue. Every dishonest television network, newspaper, and social media company is now on notice. You're being watched. We're coming after you. And while the whole broken, rotten media machine may not come tumbling down, maybe they'll wake up.
there you have it. It's all for ratings. It's all to push this false narrative on the American people to get them to distrust in President Trump. And no doubt they've had it planned to plant evidence the whole time. But thus far they've been unsuccessful. Let's listen to Senators White House briefing. This was 2 days ago, actually.
I don't think anybody will question whether or not Secretary Perry's a high energy guy, that's for sure. Great guy, wrong football team, but that's probably for another day. On top of Energy Week and everything that Secretary Perry and other cabinet members have on the agenda for that, we've got a full schedule of events and actions from the President's cabinet today on everything from global human trafficking to assistance funding for small communities. This morning, Ivanka Trump joined Secretary Tillerson at a State Department event releasing the 2017 Trafficking in Persons Report. As Ivanka said this morning, human trafficking is a human rights issue that affects millions, and this report is an important tool for the administration to combat this tragic problem. The full report is available on the State Department website. I encourage you guys to take a look. Also this morning, the Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary Shulkin hosted a meeting of robotics experts for a robotics and healthcare roundtable. The VA is embarking on the largest transformation and modernization effort in recent history, and part of that will be developing a robust robotics program within the department. Yesterday, the Interior Department announced a record $464.6 million allocation to help small communities, further demonstrating the Trump administration's commitment to all Americans. In states like Utah, which received nearly $40 million, and Nevada, which received $26.2 million, these investments are an important part of the federal government's role as land manager and neighbor to local communities, including many of those that play a big role in feeding and powering our nation. Many of these small communities in states like Nevada are also being hit particularly hard as healthcare insurance premiums rise and insurers flee their Obamacare exchanges. It's because of the people who will have no choice for themselves or their families that it's so critical that the Senate votes to repeal and replace Obamacare. Every day a new announcement is made that puts health insurance out of reach for thousands of Americans, whether insurers are hiking up rates or leaving markets entirely. Today, the Vice President is on the Hill to attend the Senate policy lunch and hold additional meetings, and he'll be hosting senators at dinner tonight in his residence. Both the President and the Vice President are fully engaged with the Senate and are helping to create a consensus that will push this bill over the finish line. As Sean said yesterday, the President talked extensively with several Republican members over the weekend, including Senators Cruz, Hall, Capito, and Johnson. He spoke to Senator McConnell this morning, and he's invited all Republican senators to the White House later this afternoon to continue these discussions. The President is optimistic that Republicans will live up to the promise that they've been making to the American people for 7 years by repealing and replacing Obamacare. I know you guys are probably a little bit tired since we've been here a while, so you want to skip on the questions? Figured it was worth a shot. And with that, I'll take your questions. Charlie?
Recently, Breitbart News challenged the accuracy of the CNN story, and afterwards it was retracted, deleted, and the editors responsible were fired, as well as the network apologized for the story. One of the targets of the story accepted the apology. The President went on Twitter this morning and repeated that CNN was fake news. Why isn't their response good enough for the President?
I don't know that it's that the response isn't good enough for the President. I think the constant barrage of fake news directed at this President probably that has garnered a lot of his frustration. You point to that report. There are multiple other instances where that outlet that you referenced has been repeatedly wrong and had to point that out or be corrected. There's a video circulating now, whether it's accurate or not. I don't know, but I would encourage everybody in this room and frankly everybody across the country to take a look at it. I think if it is accurate, I think it's a disgrace to all of media, to all of journalism. I think that we have gone to a place where if the media can't be trusted to report the news, then that's a dangerous place for America. And I think that is the place that certain outlets are going, particularly for the purpose of spiking ratings. And if that's coming directly from the top, I think that's even more scary and certainly more disgraceful. And I hope that that's not the direction we're headed. I hope that outlets that have continued to use either unnamed sources, sometimes stories with no sources at all. We've been going on this Russia-Trump hoax for the better part of a year now with no evidence of anything. Things like the success at the VA barely get covered. They may get covered for an hour at a time, but this story gets covered day in, day out. And I think America is frankly looking for something better. They're looking for something more. And I think they deserve something better from our news media.
They sure do.
Actually expect us not to report on stories of a foreign country trying to influence the presidential election.
I don't think it's that it's expected that you're not to report on, again, actual news if there's something there. But again, I think that there are a lot of things happening in this world that, frankly, a lot of people would like to hear about, whether it's job growth, whether it's deregulation, whether it's tax reform, health care. I think a lot of those things deserve a lot more coverage than they get. And all we're saying is, I think that we should take a really good look at what we are focused on, what we are covering, and making sure that it's actually accurate and it's honest. If we make the slightest mistake, the slightest word is off, it is just an absolute tirade from a lot of people in this room. But news outlets get to go on day after day and cite unnamed sources, use stories without sources, have, you mentioned the Scaramucci story where they had to have reporters resign.
Come on, you're inflaming everybody right here, right now with those words. This administration has done well. Why in the name of heavens, any one of us, right, are replaceable, and any one of us, if we don't get it right, the audience has the opportunity to turn the channel or not read us.
I think
you have been elected to serve for 4 years at least. There's no option other than that. We're here to ask you questions.
Right.
We're here to provide the answers. And what you just did is inflammatory to people all over the country who look at it and say, see, once again, the president's right and everybody else out here is fake media. And everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
Well, I disagree completely. First of all, I think if anything has been inflamed, it's the dishonesty that often takes place by the news media. And I think it is outrageous for you to accuse me of inflaming a story when I was simply trying to respond to his question. Kevin.
Thank you, Sarah. I just rapid fire because I know we've had a bit of a long briefing here. Would it be fair to, let me ask you this way, how would you describe the president's mood on health care? Concerned, still encouraged, and what did you make of the CBO score? If you could talk to him about that. And then secondly, I want to ask you about the warning to Syria. What's the message that the administration wants to convey, not just to the world community, but also to the American people who see headlines like that and they wonder, are we hurtling headlong into a major situation in that part of the world?
I'll start with healthcare first. Obviously, we're continuing to be optimistic. The president is committed, as he said, and all the members of the administration have said repeatedly, to repealing and replacing Obamacare, working with the Senate, working with the House, making sure we get the best bill. For us, it's never been about the timeline, but about getting the best piece of legislation that helps the most Americans. And that's what we're continuing to do day in, day out. That's the reason the president has asked members of the Senate to come here today so that they can talk through that, so that they can figure out the best way to move the ball forward. That's the goal of the meeting this afternoon, and that's the goal of the administration. In terms of the CBO score, as we said yesterday, the CBO is a budget office, and while it does very well at times predicting things on budget, whether it's revenue or spending. I don't think it does a great job, and I think the administration's been clear and consistent that we don't always agree that it does a great job predicting coverage. I think we saw that given their history. They projected that Obamacare, there would be 24 million people that were part of that. There were only 11, and that number is dropping every day. So I don't have a lot of confidence in that number on that part, but I do think that some of the places where they do a good job again are on the budget and the revenue side. And the CBO score that they pointed out was that it would cut deficits by $300 billion and cut taxes by $700 billion. I think those are good things, and I think when they focus on the budget side, that's probably a good thing. And I think you had a second part, sorry.
The warning to Syria, what's your message to the international community and also to the American people who may be concerned when they read a headline like that they're thinking, well, we may be hurtling toward a situation that involves the U.S. in that part of the world?
I think that the message from the statement yesterday was extremely clear. I don't think it was a gray area. It was pretty black and white. Major?
Can you explain, because you went on the record this morning, what the process was that led to that statement last night? Were members of the team at the State Department or the Defense Department taken aback by that statement, or were they fully involved? Can you give us an idea of how the process internally worked to deliberate that statement and then create the statement for public release?
I can tell you that leadership from the State Department, DOD, DNI, the CIA, as well as members of the administration within this building were part of that process from the very beginning and fully aware.
Timeline from the very beginning, was that a yesterday or?
I'm not going to walk through the detailed process of a timeline on how that was released for intelligence purposes.
You just said you accept or find valid the CBO numbers on the budget side. Is that true throughout?
They're a budget.
Yesterday?
They're a budget office, and I think on the initial numbers that we saw from that, the cutting of the deficit, the cutting of taxes, I think that that's where historically they've been more accurate as well. It's not just my, like I've decided that, but historically that's where they've been.
Of the public looking at this, would this administration accept the budget and revenue numbers that were published yesterday as generally speaking valid and worth taking seriously?
I would think so for the most part. I think in large, yes. Jennifer?
Two things, one on Google and one on the economic forecast. So European officials have slapped Google with this $2.7 million fine. Is the White House cool with European regulators hitting a U.S. company with a fine when our own Federal Trade Commission hasn't accused them of anti-competitive behavior?
At this point, I don't have anything for us to weigh in on the regulations of a private company, but if anything changes, I'll let you know. Kristen?
On the International Monetary Fund, so they lowered their forecast for U.S. Economic growth down to 2.1%, which is lower than what the president has been hoping for. Can you share some reaction on what you think about this new IMF forecast?
I haven't had a chance to dig into that, but we'll certainly circle back with you on it. Jim Stenson?
You called on me, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. Jim, let me take Kristen. I did call on her, and I'll come back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If Syria is poised to launch another chemical weapons attack, isn't that an acknowledgement that the airstrikes in April didn't work, Sarah?
I think that our goal every day is to do what we can to protect life in all forms and to take steps to move the ball forward in defeating ISIS, defeating all efforts of terrorism, and I think the statement yesterday helped do that.
How will a paper statement work, though, when airstrikes didn't dissuade Bashar al-Assad?
I don't know that it didn't, based on what we know at this point.
And just to follow up very quickly, was there a principals meeting, a deputies meeting before that statement was issued by Sean Spicer last night?
I know that there was a routine meeting that took place yesterday. I don't believe that there was anything beyond that yesterday.
Jim?
Sarah, two questions, just like NBC. Given the news about CNN...
Be careful letting NBC set your standard.
Given the news about CNN's erroneous story about Anthony Scaramucci, does the White House believe there are other Russia-related stories from major outlets that have not been retracted and are just as false, including the February 14th story in the New York Times about collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, which James Comey called into question, which many believe the CNN story was based upon?
I would have to look back at that specific story. There have been many by the New York Times that I would probably disagree quite a bit with. I think you could take it pretty straightforward that this administration disagrees with all of the stories that claim that the president and his campaign colluded with Russia in any capacity. So I think he's been extremely clear that he believes that's a hoax and certainly something that's not true and didn't take place. And any story related to that, you would, I think, find frustration from this team here.
The CNN retraction. Does the White House now believe the news media have an obligation to review stories on the Russian Trump issue and retract questionably sourced stories on the topic?
I'm sorry? I'm not following them.
I believe that the media should go back and look at anonymously sourced stories on Russia and Trump and, maybe start a review process and retract where necessary.
I think that'd be a great idea. I certainly don't think that you would get arguments from us if there were retractions from outlets on fake stories. But I also think that, there's a moment where we can all do better. And I certainly think that's what we strive to do every day. And hopefully that's the goal. I know it is of many. And hopefully it will continue to be of not just the news media, but everybody involved in the process to continue to do better, to continue to strive for excellence, and to continue to deliver the best we can for the American people.
Okay, so you accept the budgetary calculations of the CBO, but not the projections on how many people would be insured. What about their projections on what would happen to premiums and deductibles? Is that something you accept or not accept?
I think they said yesterday that the premiums would go down roughly 30% by 2020. That seems, based on what we've done internally, pretty consistent. So.
They would go way up. So you only accept them if they go down?
No, but I think in general and largely they predicted that they'd go down 30% by 2020.
Okay, and then another question. The president promised that his health care plan would not have cuts to Medicaid. Does he believe that a family of four making $60,000 makes too much money to qualify for Medicaid? In other words, that that's just too high an income to be getting Medicaid?
I don't know about a specific level breakdown. And again, there's a reason he's bringing senators over here today to talk through. We know there's going to be changes. We know there's going to be adjustments. The thing that the president was committed to is making sure that anybody that currently receives Medicare, Medicaid, that's not touched. And that is consistent with what's in the bill, and that'll continue to be what he fights for.
Does he believe, he said the House bill was too mean. Does he believe that the Senate bill is less mean, as mean, more mean? What does he think?
I honestly haven't asked him whether or not he thinks the Senate bill, the mood of it yet, but I'll check on that tomorrow and get back to you. Thanks, guys, so much. Have a good day.
You're talking about CNN, Sarah. Can I ask you a question?
That was Sarah Huckabee Sanders in a White House press briefing on the 27th of June. I think she handled that situation very well. She kept pointing out that it was the mainstream media's own fault that they were losing the trust of both the people and the White House, and she really gained my respect in that press conference. Let's watch this.
They're warning Assad that his regime is going to pay a, quote, heavy price if they do it again, that being a chemical weapons attack like we have seen in the past. CNN's Barbara Starr live for us at the Pentagon. She has breaking details. What can you tell us, Barbara?
Good morning, Brianna. It was an extraordinary late-night statement from the White House with no follow-up so far this morning that has got everybody's attention from Washington to Moscow to Damascus. The White House putting out a statement, let me quickly read part of it, saying, and I quote, "The United States has identified potential preparations for another chemical weapons attack by the Assad regime that would likely result in the mass murder of civilians, including innocent innocent children. Now, the White House also saying if the Assad regime goes through with this, it will pay a heavy price. Moscow, a short time ago, the Kremlin firing back, calling this statement unacceptable, although the Kremlin has said that Russia is opposed to the use of chemical weapons. All of this coming, oddly enough, as Syrian state media today put out images of Assad meeting with wounded troops in Syria, sort of the Syrian propaganda machine that the world has come to know so well, gearing up yet again. So look, where are we on this? What could the intelligence be that the White House is talking about? Last time, it was a combination of communications, intercepts, and overhead imagery that led the U.S. to be certain in its view that Syria was behind that chemical weapons attack in April. We will have to see how all this sorts out and what the White House is willing to say about what it knows. Chris?
All right, Barbara Starr, this is a big deal, no matter where the intel is coming from. Thank you very much. You're going to hear a lot of political comparisons to President Obama and his red line. Don't get caught up in that jazz. What matters right now is what would this mean for the United States if another attack like this happens? And why is the White House showing its hand so soon? Our panel will take this on next.
The White House issuing an unusual statement overnight saying that Syria is preparing another chemical weapons attack, also warning Bashar al-Assad that they're going to pay a heavy price if he follows through on this. Let's bring back Chris Cillizza and David Drucker, and also joining our conversation now is retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. Okay, so General, I want to read what the White House put out overnight. It says the United States has identified potential preparations for another chemical weapons attack by the Assad regime that would likely result in the mass murder of civilians, including innocent children. Activities are similar to preparations the regime made before its April 4th, 2017 chemical weapons attack. Goes on to say that the United States is in Syria to eliminate ISIS. If, however, Mr. Assad conducts another mass murder attack using chemical weapons, he and his military will pay a heavy price. Why say this now? What is the White House, in your estimation, trying to achieve?
I'm not sure, Brianna, other than a warning. It seems to go against, as Chris said earlier, what candidates said on the campaign trail about warning our enemies what we were going to do next. And this is very different from the last attack in Syria. Then it was a reaction to a strike. Now we're talking about the potential for preemption of a strike based on whatever kind of intelligence, whether it's human intelligence on the ground saying this is going to happen, overhead imagery that's showing planes being loaded, or some type of communication that we're overhearing. So all of those things are a little bit different than that reactionary strike a few weeks ago, and it causes some challenges because the Central Command, claimed last night they had not heard anything about a potential strike. So we're talking also about the challenges associated with communication and collaboration on a whole of government approach.
All right, let's say they're right. General, quick follow-up, then please, Chris, David, weigh in as you see fit. Let's say they're right. They have good intel, just like they did last time. They have an opportunity to see this coming. What are the Americans' options in terms of what they would do if this line is crossed? And we should remind people of what the effects were of that chemical attack on the citizens there last time. Put up the pictures of it. You have to remind the urgency of doing this to your own people. You're going to see children. You're going to see their parents. You're going to see them in different states of distress with very little capability on the ground there to help them. So, General, what's your insight on that part?
Well, what you're going to see, Chris, is either another TLAM, Tomahawk strike, which is unmanned, or you're going to see some type of aircraft strike that will go in, along with hopefully some diplomatic effort. All of those things in a preemptive strike after it's been announced have all sorts of changes of capabilities. Because in that TLAM strike, remember, we gave the president gave a little bit of warning before he conducted that strike. It was less than a couple of hours. Right now, you now have a warning where Russian air defense systems can be turned on. People can prepare, bases can be unmanned, so you have a whole lot different perspective. And plus, if you send a manned strike in, you would have to send in not only the bombers and the fighters, but you would also have to send in the jammers to make sure those Russian air defense systems, which are pretty prevalent across Syria, don't get turned on.
David, what are your thoughts when you see this warning?
Well, this is really fascinating because this is 180 degrees opposed to, in a sense, how President Trump, as a candidate, said he would conduct U.S. foreign policy. He was very critical of past Republicans for being too active in the Middle East and, in a sense, being too active in trying to be the dominant power in the Middle East. He talked about defeating ISIS. He talked about being more aggressive militarily to handle our enemies. But he very similar, in fact, to President Obama, talked about taking a lighter approach and not getting as involved. And what we have here is an administration now that is not just sort of reasserting American influence in the Middle East in terms of our actions, but if you look at the warning that came from Ambassador Haley, saying to Iran and Russia, this includes you, this is a sort of another interesting dichotomy where we have the president often coddling Vladimir Putin in Russia, but his top lieutenants and advisors sending a message that we're not going to put up with intransigence, especially in this region where Russia has really been competing with us and trying to push us out. So to me, that's what's most interesting about the threatened strike. And it could be a message to Russia in the sense of seeing what they plan to do about something to avoid action by us and assert, in a sense, our hegemony back over the region where Iran has been moving in and Russia has been standing pat in Syria.
So, Chris, you see a fairly stark general, correct me if this is an improper analysis, but on the plus side, you come out early, you say, if you do this, you cross this line, you have trouble. They know America can deliver. Maybe Assad thinks better of whatever plan our intelligence, U.S. intelligence, suggests he must do. The negative side is, once a line is crossed, now you must act. Must, in quotes, because things can get complicated. How do you see it?
Well, two things. First, I think that so much of what Donald Trump does, what motivates him, is less policy conviction than undo or do things related to Barack Obama. And particularly as it relates to this red line, obviously Donald Trump viewed that, and many Republicans viewed it as sort of the inefficacy, easy for me to say, of Barack Obama's foreign policy, that he would say things and then not follow up on them. The strikes in Syria earlier this year, Donald Trump viewed as sort of a way to say, see, I'm not that guy. I think this is a way to say, I'm not going to be that guy, so be under no illusion. The thing that is hard, and the Trump administration does this in both foreign and domestic policy, and the general mentioned this, is there's not a whole lot of context or case here. It sort of comes out of nowhere. It's on a Monday night. You don't have a coordinated response. There's a little bit of confusion as to what specifically is the threat here. There's a little bit of confusion as to this is a president who said we shouldn't warn of our tactics. We shouldn't reveal our tactics. So they do a lot of things in which they just act, and then it's not clear that the case behind it has been made. That said, I do think that Donald Trump wants the world to know, David touched on this, he wants the world to know that there is a different sheriff in town, that in his view, Barack Obama's threats were largely meaningless to the world, and he wants the world to know that his threats will not be. I think, broadly speaking, this is in keeping with that.
General Hertling, when you look at this, though, this is something that clearly, and we're going to learn more about this today, sends a message. Ultimately, whatever the president does, do you see it as a data point on this question of what is the Trump doctrine?
It is a data point on that, Brianna. It's also a data point on what is the Trump strategy for the Middle East, but it's also what is the data point for the Trump strategy according to the world. Because we can't take this part of the Middle East in a vacuum, especially with the players involved. There are things going on all over the world, in Europe, in Ukraine, where Russia is involved, where Russia has given some warnings to the United States about what they will and will not accept. If we're going to draw the line and then react to it, okay, that's good, but let's have a strategy for what the end state is. And what I'd further what Chris said, yes, it was announced late last night, and that was about 6 o'clock in Syria, 6 a.m. in Syria. So they now have had an entire day to think about it while we're just beginning to talk about it here on the East Coast.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.
I've also got an article that I wanted to read that went along with that, kind of. This article right here is just showing the drop in CNN's ratings. Not sure that my TV viewers can't even make it out. But yeah, since the whole CNN leaks have came out, their total ratings have dropped, plus their primetime ratings. MSNBC's has went up a little bit, it looked like. HLN, they're doing okay, I guess. Along with MSNBC, I mean. I don't much like the MSNBC though. They're biased. I guess it really depends on the show in which you watch, but yeah, you can see the bias from MSNBC if you pay much attention. Pay very much attention at all. This article is from thehill.com. CNN war with Trump gets personal. President Trump's war with CNN took an even more personal turn on Tuesday after the White House used its press briefing to tout a hidden camera video calling the cable news network's coverage of Russia controversy, quote, BS, unquote. The undercover video from conservative sting artist James O'Keefe named a CNN producer questioning the network's coverage and suggesting important stories had been buried to keep the focus on Trump and Russia. At Tuesday's press briefing, White House spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders encouraged viewers to watch the O'Keefe video, calling it a, quote, disgrace to all of media, all of journalism, end quote. She took a dig at CNN President Jeff Zucker, saying sensationalism and disregard for facts was, quote, coming directly from the top, end quote. CNN is standing by the producer, John Bonifield, who covers health and medicine from the network's headquarters in Atlanta. In a statement, the network said, quote, diversity of personnel opinion is what makes CNN strong. We welcome it and embrace it, a spokesperson told The Hill. A CNN source told The Hill that the tempest over the video will not pass, saying it was recorded after an undercover conservative operative approached Butterfield, claiming to have had a history of personal hardships and asking to be taken into a mentoring program. Quote, "It's silly. It's been spun up as something it's not," end quote, the CNN source said. Quote, "He's a health unit producer in Atlanta. He has nothing to do with Washington politics or the investigative unit, end quote. The video appeared at a difficult moment for CNN, however, which was forced to retract its story alleging that one of Trump's associates had improper dealings with a Kremlin-backed bank. The episode led 3 of CNN reporters to resign and reinforced the notion among many conservatives that the network is hell-bent on taking Trump down. On Tuesday morning conference call with CNN officials, Zucker stressed that the network had, quote, "play error-free ball," end quote, going forward, as all their mistakes will be magnified. Quote, "He's been saying it for months. It's just unfortunate because there is no more room for mess-ups," end quote, a second source at CNN told The Hill. The feud between Trump and CNN, smoldering for years, had already intensified before the firings and the O'Keefe video. The pits against one another, 2 men with a long history. Zucker was the head of NBC when Trump hosted his hit reality show, The Apprentice. Conservative media outlets such as Breitbart News are now alleging for Zucker's removal, while Trump let the insults fly Tuesday. Quote, "Fake news CNN is looking at big management changes now that they got caught falsely pushing their phony Russian stories," end quote, Trump tweeted. "Ratings way down," end quote. Quote, "CNN just posted its Wild Watch second quarter in history," end quote. The network's communications department shot back, "Those are the facts," end quote. According to the Nielsen second quarter ratings released on Tuesday, CNN is up 10% year over year in prime time and 25% overall. It's running third overall in time in cable wars behind Fox News and also MSNBC, the widely liberal outlet that has been a dramatic 86% spike in primetime ratings. The new round of controversy has rekindled a brief dormant cable news war between Fox News and CNN, with top talent from both outlets basking in the failing of the other. Last week, CNN anchor John King likened Fox News's Fox and Friends to state TV. This week's Fox News anchors Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson are flooding the airways with coverage of CNN controversies, returning the favor after CNN leaned into reporting of former Fox anchor Bill O'Reilly, who left the network amid a slew of sexual harassment allegations. Quote, "Hey CNN, when will you fire Zucker?" End quote, Hannity tweeted. Quote, "He has destroyed the network with lies and very fake news," end quote. CNN has been registering small acts of protest against the administration by focusing on Trump's treatment of the press, with White House Chief correspondent Jim Acosta leading the charge in demanding more on-camera briefings. The network sent a courtroom sketch artist in do a rendering of White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer at an off-camera briefing last week. Spicer had repeatedly ignored questions from Acosta and chided him in a tense off-camera exchange on Monday. Quote, "There's no camera on, Jim," end quote, Spicer said as Acosta shouted questions at him. CNN has displayed chirons at the bottom of the screen accusing the president of lying and is airing a television ad with footage of anchors lecturing White House officials and musing about Trump being impeached. Earlier this year, CNN refused to run a Trump campaign ad because it cast the mainstream media as, quote, fake news, end quote. The network had absorbed withering criticism from the right for its relentless focus on Russia and overwhelmingly negative coverage of Trump. A Harvard study found that CNN's coverage of Trump was negative 93% of the time over the course of his first 100 days in office. CNN has also taken a hit from other controversies. It cut ties with comedian Kathy Griffin for taking a photo with a false severed head meant to look like Trump. CNN also canceled a series with documentary makers Reza Aslan after he cursed at the president over Twitter. CNN also recently had to walk back a report authored by its top network talent, including anchor Jake Tapper and political analyst Gloria Borger, stating that former FBI Director James Comey would refute Trump's claims that he was not the target of an investigation. In testimony before the Senate Intel Committee, Comey confirmed that he had told Trump 3 times that he was not the target of an investigation. Quote, "I think it is the day when the left rules over even coming up with the phrase fake news because now we have the evidence," end quote, Trump advisor Sebastian Gorka said Tuesday on a Breitbart podcast. Quote, "We have the consequences of the symptomatic generation of fake news happening at the epicenter of one of the places that was producing the most of it," end quote. The CNN source responded, quote, "They've made it fairly clear that they view this as a war. We view it as determination to seek truth and hold the powerful accountable, regardless of how difficult they try to make it," end quote. So, there you have it, folks. Trump and the mainstream media are going head to head. There ain't much other way to put it. I would like to see CNN's White House press pass removed. I would like to see CNN go bankrupt. I would like to see Ted Turner go bankrupt. Matter of fact, for even coming up with something like this. Probably a state-funded thing is the only thing that's keeping it afloat right now. For all I know, it's nothing but a propaganda network. People are going around saying CNN is ISIS and all this. This article is from the New York Post. CNN faced $100 billion lawsuit over botched Russia story. The specter of a $100 million libel suit scared CNN into retracting a poorly reported story that slimed an ally of President Trump's and forcing out the staffers responsible for it, the Post has learned. The cable network's coverage of Trump's transition team member Anthony Scaramucci came amid federal scrutiny of corporate parent Time Warner's pending purchase by AT&T and the widespread belief among media execs that CNN President Jeff Zucker can't survive a merger. CNN immediately caved after Scaramucci, a financier and frequent network guest, cried foul and threatened to take legal action, sources said Tuesday. Scaramucci got an unusual public apology, but still hired a top Manhattan lawyer to put further pressure on CNN and, quote, look after his interest in his matter, end quote, one source said. Sources also said the three journalists responsible for the retracted story, reporter Tom Frank, editor Eric Lichtblau, and Lex Harris, who headed the CNN Investigates unit, were urged to resign. Quote, they called them in and said they'd pay them out their contracts, but they should leave immediately, one source said, end quote. Zucker was afraid of facing a high-profile suit from Scaramucci while the U.S. Justice Department weighs the proposed $85.4 billion media merger. Meanwhile, CNN insiders said staffers are furious at, quote, having lost the moral high ground because of this story, end quote. Sources said that Zucker tried to rally his staff during a Tuesday morning conference call. Quote, Zucker stressed that this issue was a lapse in editorial standards, and it was a lesson to all reporters and editors to continue to strive for strong, accurate reporting, a source said. End quote, a source said. At last week's Cannes Lions Festival in France, where Zucker boasted the viewers trust CNN, quote, more than ever, end quote, rumors that the rife that he'd be out of a job if the AT&T deal goes down, quote. It's not just Jeff Zucker. All Time Warner executives are anxious about if they will survive the merger, end quote, a media source said Tuesday. Quote, what is interesting is that the AT&T execs who will decide who goes and who stays are AT&T CEO Randall Stevenson and AT&T Entertainment Group CEO John Stankey, who have a very good relationship with the current administration, end quote. Trump, a fierce critic of CNN, publicly opposed the merger during the campaign, sources said. Scaramucci, a frequent guest on CNN to defend the president, was treated like a star at Saturday's wedding of Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin and Louise Linton of Washington, D.C. Quote, everyone at the White House has been high-fiving each other over Anthony's success in embarrassing CNN, end quote, one attendee said. Quote, Trump is thoroughly enjoying this, and Anthony got endless slaps on the back at Steve's wedding, end quote. The retraction story was based on a single anonymous source who claimed the Senate Intel Committee was probing ties between the Trump administration and a Russian government-owned investment fund. The story posted on CNN.com on Thursday also claimed the Treasury Department was believed to be investigating Scaramucci over a purported January 16th meeting with the fund's Director General. In an editor's note posted late Friday, CNN said the story had been deleted for not meeting, quote, editorial standards with the network, later revealing a, quote, breakdown, end quote, in pre-publication vetting and typically involves, quote, fact checkers, journalism standards experts, and lawyers, end quote. White House spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders said Tuesday she wasn't sure if CNN's handling of the matter was, quote, good enough, end quote, for her boss, who went on a Twitter tirade against the news channel earlier in the day. Quote, I think that we have gone to a place where if media can't be trusted to report the news, then it's a dangerous place for America. And I think if that is the place that certain outlets are going, particularly for the purpose of spiking ratings, and if that's coming directly from the top, I think that's even more scary, end quote, she said. Quote, I think we should take a really good look at what we're focused on, what we are covering, and making sure that it's actually accurate and it's honest, she added, end quote. CNN's retraction of the Scaramucci story was the latest in a string of recent embarrassments, including the firing earlier this month of, quote, Believer, end quote, series host Reza Aslan after he called Trump a, quote, piece of shit, end quote, on Twitter. The network also fired comedian Kathy Griffin, longtime co-host of New Year's Eve coverage, over a photo that showed her posing with a prop resembling Trump's bloody severed head, and had to own up to the story that incorrectly predicted what fired FBI Director James Comey would testify about before Congress. CNN did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Following Friday's apology, Scaramucci tweeted that, quote, CNN did the right thing. Classy move. Apology accepted. Everyone makes mistakes. Moving on, end quote. On Tuesday, he retweeted a message from CNN, quote, reliable sources, end quote, Brian Shelter, saying that, quote, nothing in my story should be taken to imply that Scaramucci is under investigation, end quote, as well as a meme portraying Trump as Batman driving the Batmobile. The story also shows Vice President Mike Pence as Robin holding the, quote, bat phone, end quote, and saying, quote, sorry he can't talk right now, he's busy winning. But that's the end of that story, that article. Again, that's from the New York Post, written by Emily Smith, June 27th, 2017, 8:25 p.m. Phone lines are open, folks. If y'all want to give me a call this morning, 276-524-0047. I've been on the air about an hour and 26 minutes. I knew this was going to be a long show, but, you know, I'll stick with it till it's over here. I get all this news out to y'all. This comes from thehill.com. Senate Intel asks 21 states to publicize election hacking. The Senate Intel Committee has asked election officials in 21 states to make public information about Russian efforts to hack their election systems during the 2016 election, the panel's top Democrat said on Wednesday. The request was made in a letter sent last week, quote, to all relative state election officials, end quote, from Senator Richard Burr, Republican of North Carolina, and Mark Warner, Democrat of Virginia. The panel's chairman and vice chairman, respectively, Warner revealed in his prepared remarks before a hearing on global election interference, quote, I do not see how Americans are made safer when they do not know. Let me start that over. I messed that back. Quote, I do not see how Americans are made safer when they do not know which state election systems Russia tried to hack, end quote, Warner said. Department of Homeland Security officials last week revealed that Russian hackers targeted election-related systems in 21 states leading up to Election Day, but officials would not disclose which states were targeted, citing the need to protect the confidentiality of the states affected. Some lawmakers have expressed frustration at the department's repetitious arguing that it makes more difficult to prevent such attacks in the future. This is why I have asked the Department of Homeland Security to share with the committee the names of the 21 states they testified last week were attacked by Russian hackers, end quote. Warner said, adding that he has written to and spoken with Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly on the matter. Quote, as the Oversight Committee for All Intelligence Issues, the committee is entitled to have this information, end quote. The Obama administration had previously revealed that the voter database in Arizona and Illinois were breached by foreign-based hackers. It's unclear whether all the remaining states all the remaining systems were successfully breached. Quote, we need to work through a process so state election officials have the security clearance to at least be read in, end quote, Warner said, saying that the top official from neither Indiana nor Wisconsin could acknowledge whether they were among the 21. We need to work together through a process so state election officials have the security clearance. I didn't read that. I'm sorry. Officials have said there is no doubt Russia was behind the attacks, but that the impacted systems were not involved in actual vote counting. Folks, I don't know if this is going to come out or not, but as you may or may not have heard on some of my prior episodes, I've been telling y'all for about 2 months now that the only hacking that was done was the Department of Homeland Security and the NSA. And I would say that the DNC have operatives in both. And the CNN thing, I've been trying to tell y'all that for ever since I've been starting this show, maybe even before. Yeah, I saw that coming a mile away. A blind man could have saw that. I mean, listen, I don't put a lot of faith in nobody. Okay? I just know that Trump didn't collude with the Russians. I mean, yeah, I voted for Trump. But, tell you what, I got a whole nother conspiracy theory on my mind. One that would blow, I'd say, 3/4 of Americans away. And I'm not fully 100% certain that this whole thing's been a conspiracy or not. But when I'm able to make a conclusive statement about what I think happened and all that, I will share that with the rest of y'all. In the meantime, I will keep working on studying this information. But that's just all I'm going to say on that. It's super big. It's way, way, way over anybody's head. This shit's way over Alex Jones' head, if that tells you anything. It's so unbelievable that he would be the first to say that it's not real. Okay? So I'm not even gonna tell you anything else. I'm just gonna keep on studying and see if I can find out any major details surrounding what I'm talking about. And when I make major findings, I will share them with you, my audience. You have my word. This article is from Breitbart, showing that, or saying that CNN has 17 million fake followers, I think it was, on Twitter. Fake news, fake followers. Twitter audit reports CNN has 17 million fake Twitter followers. According to Twitter's audit.com, nearly 50% of the followers on CNN verified Twitter accounts are fake. Of CNN's millions of followers on their verified Twitter account, over 17 million, or 48%, are fake, according to Twitter audit. According to Twitter audit, the site determined the quality and score of real and fake followers by taking a, quote, sample of up to 5,000 or more if you subscribe to Pro. Twitter followers for a user-calculated score for each follower. The score is based on a number of tweets, date, the last tweet, and ratio of users to friends. Twitter audit states that each result are not definitive, but do not provide insight into whether or not a Twitter account gained followers through illegitimate means. Quote, we used these scores to determine whether any given user is real or fake. Of course, the scoring method is not perfect, but it is a good way to tell if someone with lots of followers is likely to have increased their follower count by inorganic, fraudulent, or dishonest means. That was just a little something that kind of tied into what we've been talking about this morning. So I just thought I'd read it to y'all. Again, folks, if y'all want to call the show this morning, I'd love to have you on. The number 276-524-0047. Hang on, folks, I'll get right back to that article right now. I'm letting it load. Amsterdam on steroids. Las Vegas dispensaries brace for Saturday start of recreational sales. This article comes from LasVegasSun.com. Written by Chris Dallas. Wednesday, June 28th, 2017 at 2 a.m. The Oregon-based pharma dispensary began humbly as a medicinal marijuana boutique serving a small portion of Portland with specialty pot products for the better part of the year. But when recreational sales began on October 1st, 2015, owner Sam Haywood saw his customer base increase tenfold overnight as hundreds of buyers flooded into a 1,200 square foot dispensary accustomed to serving fewer than several dozen patients a day. Quote, one day we were a small pharmacy serving only medical patients, and the next we were a busy retailer, end quote, Haywood said. He went on to say it was fascinating and unusual to say the least, end quote. Pharma was one or more than 100 dispensaries across Oregon to start recreational sales that day, the majority of which loaded up on staffers and inventory to handle lines with scores and eager local out-of-state marijuana buyers. Fueled by one of the world's largest tourism industries, Nevada is preparing to do the same on July 1st. A May report published by Governor Brian Scandoval Task Force on Marijuana estimates that up to 63% of recreational buyers will be tourists. Quote, everything we need shows that the millennials are very pro-marijuana and that's the new market push, end quote, said Nevada State Senator Tick Seegerbloom, a longtime marijuana advocate. Quote, "This is a game changer for Las Vegas and tourism here as far as I'm concerned," end quote. He added, quote, "Amsterdam on steroids," end quote. Essence Medical Dispensary owner Armin Yaminidijuan is one of 37 Las Vegas Valley's applicants to receive an early start license to begin recreational sales on Saturday. His dispensary is the closest to the Strip, right on Las Vegas Boulevard north of Sahara Avenue, the dividing line between the Strip and downtown Las Vegas. Yemendijuan, whose other dispensary on Tropicana Avenue near Jones Boulevard also received an early start license, said his facility stocked up on more than 3 months worth of marijuana flower, edibles, and concentrates to serve the current medical market and keep pace with expected brisk recreational sales. Yamaninji, wherever he say his name, is location near the Strip, which he said serves more than 200 daily customers, but still loses money as a medical-only facility, figures have some of the largest lines. An average of about 40,000 people a day pass by the dispensary, according to a 2015 Clark County report on pedestrian traffic. He estimated that his clientele would increase, quote, by 2 to 3 times, end quote, overnight. Quote, "It's a historic moment, and I think the growth will be both immediate and gradual," end quote. Yamin said, quote, "We're ready to go and very excited," end quote, following a Carson City judge's ruling last week that all distribution of the plant from cultivation and production facilities to dispensaries must be carried out only by licensed liquor distributors beyond July 1st. Dispensary owners were using the last week of medical-only sales to get as much weed into their stores as possible. None of the existing suppliers are liquor distributors. Quote, "We have to be agile and adjust as necessary," end quote, said Adam Denmark Cohen of Jordan Premium Cannabis Dispensary in Las Vegas. Quote, "We haven't gone crazy, but we do anticipate an increase in customers," end quote. Cohen's dispensary at Desert Inn and McLeod Drive aims to serve locals and tourists despite the location away from the more popular tourist areas. Whatever this weekend's outcome, he said he wanted to make sure he was ready, loading up on inventory and beefing up staff and security. In the first weeks of the recreational sales in Colorado in 2014, dispensaries watched over the shelves empty and marijuana prices skyrocketed as vendors failed to keep up with consumer demand, said Neil Demers of Denver's Diego Pellicer Dispensary. Quote, it took 8 to 10 months for supply to catch up and the market to level out, end quote, he said. Buyers are still prohibited by state law from consuming marijuana except at private residences, meaning those anxious to smoke or eat their weed products right away must wait until they get home, Metro Officer Laura Metzer said. Smoking alongside dispensaries at a casino or even in a parked car could result in a $600 fine. Driving under the influence of marijuana could also earn driver's license suspension or drivers a fine of $600 to $1,000 and jail time, even for a first offense, Meltzer said. Metro Police Officer Larry Hadfield said police assistance for crowd and traffic control similar to that seen during the grand opening of popular restaurants like Chick-fil-A had not requested by Las Vegas dispensaries as of last week. North Las Vegas police officer Aaron Patty said his department also had not received any such request. Dispensary owners indicated they would have added security to handle the opening day crowds. Quote, anything to make sure the first day goes smoothly. Yamin Dijian said, quote, we want to provide legitimate businesses and that we're in this for the long haul. We've come a long way over the past few years and want to do this right, end quote. So there you have it. They're fixing to get high in Las Vegas. Everybody is, I believe. This is an article from FoxNews.com. Military option for North Korea being prepared for Trump, McMaster says. Just trying to find who wrote this. I don't see no name. This is published June 29th, Fox News. There is a video for this, if it'll ever come up. Believe it or not. I've been going for 2 hours and 5 minutes, believe it or not. This is going to be one of my longer episodes, looks like. Still waiting for that video. Just give it just a second here. It should be coming right on up. Give me a good silhouette going on, yeah. As soon as this news loads up, folks, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Need any support from y'all I can get. If y'all could send me $1 or $2, send it to my website, bigalmorgan.wixsite.com/AlexMorganShow. Just go down to the PayPal link and click it, and just leave me whatever you can. It'll be greatly appreciated. For those who donate $40 or more, I will send you a free t-shirt of the size of your choosing. They will be black, and you will be satisfied. I don't know about like the double extra large. If you want a double extra large, you may have to leave like $45. That way, I will come out on this venture. But yeah, they're really nice. They're black. The ones I got coming right now are black. They've got some art on them and some graphics, some letters. This video still ain't loaded. Let me try to see if this page will reload. But if you do donate, again, $40, I will send you a t-shirt of your chosen size, medium, well, small, medium, large, and extra large. A minimum donation of $40. If you want a double X or triple extra large, I'll have to charge you about $45. But just
are hoping the plight of the North Korean people will find its way on.
I'll get back to you. Let me finish. Okay. If you do donate, send me an email with your name, address, phone number, and your t-shirt size, and I will get that out to you the very next day. The t-shirts haven't arrived yet, though. As soon as they do, I will show them on a show or a video or something, and that way all of you can see them. Here's this episode, or here's this video, I'm sorry.
Agenda of the talks in Washington today and tomorrow. If you have been to North Korea, as we have been several times over the past several years, the geopolitical challenge of the regime is very evident. We witnessed parades of missiles, of military, of course, the leader, Kim Jong-un, present. Also, though, in the showcase capital of Pyongyang, despite signs of economic improvement, there are a lot of signs of what the experts say is the continuing oppression of the North Korean people by this regime. In our first-hand observations and our guarded brief interviews with the residents, you can't help get the sense they have little control of what they do or what they say. Add to this vast political prisons, tens of thousands facing torture and forced labor. We heard about that again this week here in the UK from a North Korean defector, Kim Joo-il. He said that those camps are even more deadly now with the new regime. Take a listen.
Many people expected that Kim Jong would do something different, but what he's doing in North Korea is worse than his father. So many people are disappointed and have no hope.
As the defector explained to us, as we have seen to some degree again in our time there, it can be as deadly now to try to flee the country as to stay inside. And yes, the death of American student Otto Warmbier, Shannon, also hopefully focusing the minds of those talking in the White House today and tomorrow on not just the nukes, not just the missiles, but the North.
Important conversations today. All right, Ray, thank you very much.
So there you have it. We don't know exactly what they're planning, what they're even thinking at this point, but we know that they are preparing for some kind of military action. I guess this is depending on what North Korea does. The outrage in Washington over North Korea has grown since the death last week of U.S. University student Otto Warmbier. He had spent 17 months in detention in the totalitarian nation for stealing a propaganda poster and returned home this month in a coma. 3 other Americans and 6 South Koreans are still being held in the North. That's awful, folks. I want everybody to pray for those people. Pray that somehow that they'll get to come home and see their family, because that's just a bad place to die. There ain't nobody wants to die in a foreign country. There ain't nobody wants to die with a bunch of strangers looking at them. I mean, there ain't nobody wants to die as far as that goes, but I do know this much. I would say that the majority of people, when they die, they want to be with their family and loved ones. They sure don't want to be in no rat hole in North Korea with, Dennis Rodman's best friend, making them be tortured and suffer any more than what they have to. I had a video a while ago that I was wanting to show where Dennis Rodman was being interviewed, and he was just talking about like the stuff that him and Kim Jong-un would do. They would like play sports together, go horseback riding. He talked, they just had fun all the time. Let's listen to our president. Well, this is old. This is very old. I thought this was newer. Let's not listen to our president. In fact, let's see if we can find that video. This one might be it. I think it looks like it.
Here's President Trump. As you all know, shortly after...
Hold it. That's not it. That's not it. Hold on.
This morning, Dennis Rodman is back on familiar soil. He's in Pyongyang, North Korea. The former NBA star and Celebrity Apprentice alum arrived a few hours ago. He's been to the country at least 4 times before, and his visit comes as tensions are high, to say the least, between Washington and Pyongyang.
4 Americans, so stand by on that number, are currently being detained in North Korea. North Korea has fired 16 missiles this year. Yesterday, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis called North Korea an urgent threat to national security. Joining us now live from Beijing, CNN international correspondent Matt Rivers, who actually caught up with Dennis Rodman on his way to North Korea. Matt.
That's right, John. We were able to catch up with him at the airport. When you go to North Korea, you have to transit through Beijing, and so it was a convenient place. When we got a tip that Dennis Rodman was coming through to go to North Korea, we figured we'd go meet him at the airport to ask him, well, what exactly he would plan on doing while inside the country. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
Yeah, listen to this.
Are you here just as a private citizen? You spoken to President Trump at all?
Well, I'm pretty sure he's pretty much happy at the fact that I'm over here trying to accomplish something that we both need.
And what accomplish, sir?
They just try to open the door. Try to open the door, that's it.
Are you going to talk at all about the detained Americans?
Well, that's not my purpose right now.
And there were a couple answers that Rodman wouldn't answer. We asked him specifically, is he bringing a message directly from the Trump administration? He wouldn't answer that question. We also asked him if he planned on meeting specifically with Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea. He wouldn't answer that question either. We should note the State Department has said that they are aware of the fact that Rodman is in North Korea. They said they wished him the best of luck. However, they said he is traveling strictly as a private citizen, not in any official capacity. So it doesn't appear that Dennis Rodman will be carrying the mantle for the Trump administration in what could very easily be called one of the greatest diplomatic challenges over the last 20 or 30 years. But one interesting note here, Dennis Rodman is unique in the sense that he does have a personal relationship with Kim Jong-un. He's been there several times since 2013. And he also knows Donald Trump, being on the Celebrity Apprentice 2 different times. So in that sense, he's quite unique.
And he didn't, he certainly didn't say, well, I haven't spoken to the White House about this. He sort of skirted around that question of yours a little bit. Let me ask you, do we know how long this trip is? How long he's supposed to be there?
He's supposed to stay until Saturday, but exactly what he's going to be doing while there, we're not sure. The last time he was really quite visible. He had a documentary crew following him around. He actually led a rendition of Happy Birthday to Kim Jong-un while he was there. We're not sure if it's going to be just as high profile this particular visit. His entourage was much smaller this time as compared to last time, but time will tell. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on North Korean state media and see what comes out.
Indeed, we will. Matt Rivers, thank you very much.
Here it shows where Dennis Rodman tweeted, headed back to North Korea. Thank you. Potcoin.com. Thank you for sponsoring my mission. I'll discuss when I return.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's pretty much happy at the fact that I'm over here trying to accomplish something that we both need.
This video was also from about 2 weeks ago. Dennis Rodman gives Kim Jong-un a Donald Trump book.
guys should be proud of yourself because, you know, a lot of people really don't try to give you guys credit because it's such a small country and not too many people from North Korea can compete around the world. But for you guys to come back here in your country with a medal, that says a lot about North Korea.
Oh my God, did y'all see how much taller he was than those North Korean players? He was like 3 foot taller than they were. Let's see what this one is. William Haynes TV.
Do you want to be a hero? Because you can.
That's
all
an
you
ad.
have to do is.
Okay, here's the video.
Let's be honest. It's a little weird that Kim Jong-un likes Dennis Rodman so much. Dennis Rodman has returned to North Korea for another trip. If you for some reason didn't know, North Korea isn't usually too hospitable to Americans. They don't let us go too deep into their country because of reasons. But Kim Jong-un has before extended his arms to...
No, we won't get into that anymore. We all know that Dennis Rodman must get off on being in a communist country and get off being with a communist dictator. There's just no way that any normal person would want to be friends with Kim Jong-un. Okay, that's just weird. They should actually arrest Dennis Rodman for possibly treason. Especially at this time when we're so close to a nuclear standoff with these crazy little people. And he's just, traveling over there anytime he, feels froggy. And you think, if Dennis Rodman was every bit of a decent person who believed in America, believed in the Constitution, and believed in the freedom that we have as a people here, that he would try to influence Kim Jong-un to let those prisoners go. God knows his big AWS wouldn't want to be shackled in some hole in North Korea. So, just like I said, there ain't nobody that wants to die away from their family and loved ones. Ain't nobody wants to die in North Korea. Unless you're from North Korea, and I'm not even sure that they want to die in North Korea, But anyway, this is my last article I've got this morning. It's from Breitbart. Mitch McConnell wants a revised Senate healthcare bill by Friday. Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, wants a revised version of the Better Care Reconciliation Act, BCRA, by Friday to prep for another vote before the August recess. McConnell hopes to finalize changes to the Senate health care bill so that he can send the changes to the Congressional Budget Office to analyze. The CBO reported that 22 million more Americans would not have health insurance over the next 10 years under the bill. The BCRA would also reduce the deficit by $321 billion by 2026. CBO could send a new CBO score to be revised by BCRA by the same time the Senate returns from the 4th of July recess, allowing 2 weeks for Senate leadership to whip the votes necessary to pass the bill through the upper chamber before Congress leaves Washington, D.C. for the rest of the summer. The majority leader pulled the bill's vote, which has slated for this week after realizing there was not enough support for the bill to pass. Pundits remain unsure that provisions the Senate leadership will try to revise or whether the bill's revisions will take a more moderate or conservative approach. Senate leadership has to rally at least 5 senators to vote for the BCRA. However, there remains an even split between moderate and conservative opposition to the bill. Senators Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, and Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, and Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, came out against the bill last Thursday, arguing that they could vote for the bill if McConnell included more conservative reforms to it. Senator Paul met with President Donald Trump on Tuesday and said that the president remains willing to negotiate on the Senate health care bill, although he wonders whether McConnell wants to negotiate. Senator Paul released a letter he sent to Majority Leader McConnell to specific reforms he would like to see the BCRA, which include allowing small businesses and individuals their own health insurance pools, restricting the BCRA's tax credit scheme, and eliminating the BCRA's continuous insurance coverage mandate. Paul concluded in his letter, quote, "I hope that this outline aids your understanding of my current position on the Senate Healthcare Reform Bill and changes that might be made to it, language to make good on Republicans' promise to stop Obamacare and provide true health reform," end quote. Although some analysts remain skeptical about the bill's chances of passing before the August recess, other sources say that Republican leadership has a better grasp of what senators want after a meeting with President Trump at the White House on Tuesday. And he's got a tweet here from President Trump. It says, quote, "I just finished a great meeting with the Republican senators concerning health care. They really want to get it right, unlike Obamacare." That was tweeted at 6:27 p.m. on June 27th, 2017. But that's pretty much the news. I really do hope that all of you all visit CNNleaks.com and you scroll down not even a half a page and you'll come to the big red CNN link. What they're wanting you to do, there's hours upon hours upon hours of recordings on those tapes, and they want you to download them and go through and listen to them, and if you can, transcribe what you can and help them cipher through all the information. Folks, this is a hard-fought information war that we're in. I know there's been a lot of violence here lately. Especially the shooting on the Republican congressman and stuff, and just everybody. I want to get along with everybody. I condone all forms of violence. I don't think violence gets us nowhere, and I hope y'all remember that. But just keep that in mind. I'm going to let y'all go. Again, go to my site, bigalmorgan.wixsite.com. Email alexmorganshow@gmail.com. And follow me on Twitter and Facebook. See y'all.